hopefully you can hear me properly and you can see my screen. Please confirm.
I can see your screen and I can hear you.
Thank you very much. My name was introduced by Fiona. I am Christine Hilda Namuddu, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak to you. We were once like you, and we are out here in the industry, and whatever we are doing is not far different from what we are learning or what you are currently learning. And actually, learning is a continuous journey. So what we are going to share today, most of it you've heard it already, and we shall just dive deep into a little bit of how it's applicable to what we are currently doing, some of us, and how further you guys can stretch yourselves when you come out in the market and where to start. So these are my current professional credentials. I have worked with Ernst & Young. Actually, I kicked off my career with Huawei Technologies. Currently, it is famous. Those our years, it was more of let me say only a third party to the key telecom companies, but currently Huawei is one of the technologies in technology companies in Uganda really taking on people who have just finalized campus, and it's a really good way to start your career because China is already currently a good hub for technology. So I started off with Huawei Technologies, working for Airtel Uganda. Then I went into what we call advisory services, still within the technology space, with Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young is one of the big four consultancy firms, but within the consultants and accounting, they know that currently it is digital. No, there's no one doing accounting using just an Excel or paperwork. Most of them are doing their financial management and their accounting using supported by systems. So they need people like us who have understood the technologies and how systems are functioning to go in and provide this consultancy to their customers. So I went in with Ernst & Young, and I was doing the technology consulting, technology auditing, technology risk assessments, technology penetration tests. And then from there, I joined MTN Uganda, and I was mainly doing technology risk management. Currently, I'm with Postbank. I started in as a technology auditor, and currently I'm also doing technology governance and controls. Now, I'm not explaining this so that you just get to know me, but I'm explaining this to us to, even before I dive deeper, for us to appreciate the courses we have been taking these 3 years, or the ones we are still taking, and appreciate this particular course of IT audit. We've all done, currently all of us in the industry started off as maybe an engineer or an information systems personnel or an IT technology personnel. But when you come into the industry, there is room for you to grow and understand, especially in the risk management space. So when you understand the technology, and also you understand the technology risk management, which further leads to technology auditing, your career prospects are all wide. Now mine started with Huawei Technologies. I was mainly an engineer. I went into Ernst & Young after understanding quite a basics of engineering and technologies. I did consultancy, and with consultancy, you keep on learning what is the trend, because every client is new, or every client is using a different technology. So from there, I got to really understand the trends in technology, how fast the technology is changing, and also it helps you now understand, oh, if it is changing this fast, what risks am I supposed to look out for whenever there is a new technology coming in, whenever there is a new system, whenever I am to advise a client to go to a particular application to support their manual process, what am I telling them to do, or what am I telling them to get themselves into? Then from there, when I go to MTN Uganda, it is more of, now I've understood quite a number of industries, and with MTN Uganda, it's only telecom, and I am appreciating how the telecom world is working, especially in risk management, but with an understanding of the technologies. Now here in Postbank Uganda, I started off as an auditor. literally I am providing assurance that actually the systems are working fine and the processes around the systems are also working fine. But now currently I am into IT governance and also controls. So when we are out there, I want to further encourage us and tell us that we're in a safe space. We chose the right course. All we need to do is to remain on top of our game and ensure that every day we are updated with what's going on. I know in this lecture I won't hit on with that in the trends in technology, but maybe Fiona will get you another person or another session where for you guys to further understand how technology is moving fast and how best to embrace it. But all in all, whenever there is a shift in technology, risk management is key to ensure that we are not exposing ourselves. Now, back to the basics. What is risk? What is a risk? For this particular discussion, even the examples we shall be looking at, we shall take a risk as an effect of uncertainty. On a personal basis, it can be your personal goals. On a corporate basis or a company, it can be company goals or objectives, even family goals or objectives, even class goals or objectives. For example, you might find that when you started your year one, you were 100 in a particular course, and maybe as a team or maybe as a course lead wanted at least 70% to graduate by the end of the 3 years. And as the semester on semester, that the course lead will always assess to see how many drop-ups do I have and how many people do I have remaining onto course. And if it reaches a particular area where he has only 75 remaining, yet we are in year 2, there is some cost of saying, oh, I have a risk, I may not hit my expectation of 70%. So the course lead will have to do what they call risk management. Yeah, so risk management is ensuring that you have coordinated activities to direct or control a certain risk or regarding that risk you have observed. And now let me take it to a personal level. You've noted that you've bought a new phone and you're keeping your personal data on this phone. On this phone, you also have mobile money, and maybe with your businesses or family, they send you upkeep through mobile money. And now you assess and say, oh, all my upkeep and that means all my upkeep is on this phone on mobile money. So to ensure that I keep my upkeep and it is not lost in one way or the other, this phone has to be kept securely. First of all, physically ensuring that it doesn't get lost. Secondly, that if somebody comes and picks your phone and opens it, they do not directly take off your money. Step number 1, you will put maybe a PIN on your mobile money account. Step number 2, you will say, I will not just go with a PIN. One day I might give it to a friend of mine and forget to change it. So what you do next is say you put a lock on your phone. So even though your friend has your mobile money number, they don't have your lock, so they cannot take your money. That is also part of risk management. It all starts by identifying what the risk is and actually what is the impact of the risk. You might find that if the impact of the risk doesn't necessitate somebody to evoke a risk management action, but further to watch and monitor and see how it is performing. Some risks go away by themselves. Let me give a normal example. Currently, before COVID, flu was not really a big risk to somebody's health. You get flu, you drink water as you watch space. But if that flu persists for quite a number of days, you're going into 5 days, 7 days, then there you might evoke and start taking some medication or go visit a specialist to find out why is this thing not curing by itself. So that is a risk, and that's risk management. Further down there, we shall branch it over to technology. Key definitions in risk management: always a risk will have somebody who is affected by it. It might be a decision from a certain activity. It might be a decision from the government. It might be a decision from the family. But if that decision is is affecting somebody in a certain way, that person becomes a stakeholder, and that stakeholder will have to evoke a risk management process to ensure that they can be able to control that risk or manage that risk. We always have a risk source. Now, I have been giving no more relatable examples, but when I said a risk source in technology, in most cases, you will hear a word threat. So when you come here in the industry, most people will, instead of saying risk source, they will always say, we have a threat. We have a threat. We have noted somebody on the network that is a threat. So we have noted that there are scammers in the masses. So when this app is launched and we don't have enough technology controls around that app, we stand a threat of ABCD. So it is a potential to give rise to a risk. And in technology, we call them threats. An event is a particular change of certain set of circumstances, which may later, if explored, result into a risk. So the threat will explore an event and it turns into a risk. Down there, we shall see examples. I just want us to get this nomenclature so that when I'm explaining down there what is happening this side, it is really not new. Consequence is an outcome. So if you manage your risk properly, it may actually turn out to be an opportunity. People will use, if you are an app developer and you have put in that controls in place, you've got an investor has given you a certain capital and you're starting, maybe your app is giving out loans to a particular group of people. You have put necessary controls in that app to ensure that actually there is no fraudulent transactions from your database somewhere through your people, and also your people who use your app are not over defrauded. So you have managed the risk properly. The consequence of management of that risk will be an opportunity of onboarding more people to use your app. That means more returns. However, if you do not manage your risk properly, the event is usually loss or failure to meet the objective. Likelihood is just a chance. So you might find that you have your phone, like my previous example of the phone, you have your phone, you have not set your password, even you have shared your PIN with quite a number of friends, but your mobile money is never touched. So the likelihood of your first trusted friends grabbing your phone and taking away your money through mobile money is currently low, because maybe they are trusted, maybe they understand you, and they have some integrity in themselves. So even when they're on the wall, they will not steal your money. However, there is also that possibility that there is that one friend amongst the friends who can take that opportunity and snatch away your money. So the likelihood of your inability to put enough controls around your mobile money on your phone, of somebody exploiting it so that your money gets lost, is that thing they calculate. Let me say it's that likelihood, is that chance that that risk may happen to you, or it may materialize in that sense. So when we are talking about likelihood here, it's literally a chance of that risk materializing. So a control is usually that measure we put in place to ensure that that risk doesn't happen, or we reduce it. So it modifies the risk in such a way that it reduces its chances of happening or reduces its impact. For example, back to our phone. You put your mobile money here, you haven't set your PIN, or you have shared your PIN, you haven't set the password on your phone. And the control you put is ensuring always your account is on zero. So that's your control. So even when your friends pick your phone, go through your mobile money, there's nothing to steal. So your control is always maintain the account at zero. Or the other control will be for you, you never leave your phone anywhere. You haven't set your PIN, you have shared, you haven't set a password for your phone, you've shared your PIN with your friends, but always, even in the bathroom, you go with your phone. You never give it to anybody. So your control is that you do not share your phone with anyone. that reduces the risk a little bit until that day when you do not. You forget your phone on the bed and then they take it. So this is what we are going to be talking about, risk management, but in the technology perspective. Now that leads me, before I dive into why are we even studying risk management? Why does somebody need to manage risks? These things are logical. Truth is they are logical because every day we live in risks. To drive a car in Kampala, it is a risk, but it's a calculated one to most of us. To board a border, to get on a border in Kampala is a risk, but we always do it after calculated moves. Maybe you put on your helmet, you talk to your border guy sweetly, please drive me slowly, please do not overtake. Those are the risks we are living with. But when it comes to the technology bit, there is some deeper understanding. And given that the world is currently driven by technology, and we are going to be the technology custodians wherever we go after graduating, we need to understand the importance of risk management. There is the word they call confidentiality. Confidentiality means when I give you my information to keep in a certain system, you shouldn't give it to anybody, or no one should access it unless they are authorized or approved to access it. Then integrity is that when you given you custodianship of my system with its data, I should not expect my data to change. Availability. When I give you custodianship of my system, you as, let me give an example, you're employed somewhere as a systems administrator. You as a systems administrator, I would require you to ensure that my system is available so that my people out there can transact and I can get money. This applies to every system in the world which is technology based. There is a drive to ensure that the integrity, the confidentiality, and also the data hosted in these systems is available. So this data can be at the collection phase, it can be at the processing phase, it can be at a stored state. However, what the underlying keyword is why technology risk management is, first of all, to ensure that this data is kept confidential. That means only people authorized to access it, approved to access it, should access this data. Let me drive it home in the banking world. Many of us have accounts either in the bank or currently with a telecom company, which is running a fintech. So this data is not only your personal data, that means name, your NIN number for us who have, for your date of birth, but it also includes your transaction details. Meaning if somebody is to scan around in your class or at your university to know which people to target, if they get somebody's transaction statement from mobile money or from their bank account, they can know if I need to steal money, who is likely to have money. So when they scan through people's, the way their accounts are moving, they can easily know that, oh, okay, I have maybe Hosea here, and also I have Samantha. So these two people are my baits, or they are my targets. So with that information, you are guiding, you are exposing your clients or your customers to these people who are conducting fraudulent activities. In that way, because you haven't maintained the confidentiality of that data, you're exposing them to one day or the other they might be scammed. And you've had, like recently, there's been an outcry that a certain bank or certain fintech companies, they are stealing our money. But in most cases, when we in the industry review the logs means activities that have been done on the system, we note that actually the way the transaction was done, it was done in an authentic manner. Meaning, one way or the other, either friends or internal people or something somewhere, somebody leaked information or somebody exposed the way they use their mobile pins or their ATM cards or their mobile app credentials, and in one way or the other they gave access, hence access to that confidential information, guiding somebody to be frauded. So when we are talking about technology risk management, you're seeing the word assurance there. I will explain it later. Our goal is to keep confidentiality, maintain integrity, ensure this data is available. And also, in one way or the other, our first role as technology when we are coming into the industry was to maintain efficiency and effectiveness, which is still also key. But currently we are the business drivers. Every business which is not riding on technology is not making as much money as it would. Because even right now we are having digital marketing. Even for shops down in Chukobo, people are doing digital marketing. That's how critical technology is. Now, oh, sorry. When we talk about risk management and assurance, I will explain down there. Assurance, it is providing opinion or providing confidence to management or to senior management or to the population out there that, hey, the system you're using is secure. You have seen quite a number of bank management teams going out to television stating how their digital money systems are secure. Please transact using my app, transact using this particular USSD platform. It is secure, it is reliable. It's all because of technology. So whoever provides that assurance is somebody who understands risk management. It can be an IT risk personnel. It can be an IT auditor. It can be an IT internal controls person. It can be you, the IT person yourself, who is currently managing the system. So the scope of assurance does not only end at technology, but it goes into the processes around using the technology, meaning the input, output. Before that information comes in, where is it coming from? And when it goes out, where does it go? And also the processes around managing technology, who has access to the system. When I want to update my system, what do I go through? In risk management, we call it change management. When I put here down something, I think I can use this pointer. When it comes to technology, we look at the operating system. For those ones who are still using Microsoft, you know that every 2 weeks they are prompting you for patches, unless when you don't have an activated version. But for us who have activated versions, they are prompting you for updates, meaning those updates are patches. So you have to ensure that your technology has the latest patch, because if it doesn't have the latest patch, there are people amongst you people who have studied what you have studied, and for them they have gone into their other route of unethical information hacking, or what we call, people in the corporate world, in the ethical world, we call it penetration testing, which is authorized, which is ethical. But the unethical one, they call it hacking, just hacking. So there are people who have the knowledge you have, who have understood the role of risk management, and who have understood how to identify that the risk is not managed well. And they will always check out your systems to ensure whether you have the latest patches, whether you have addressed that vulnerability Microsoft is talking about, or the one Cisco is talking about. And if you haven't patched it, they will use it as a loophole. So technology risk management is done at not only the application side, which the customer sees, it is done at the operating system, at the application itself, at the database, at the base machine. Actually, when you come out here in the corporate world, we are no longer many vendors. When I say vendors, I mean those people who are designing this and developing the system from scratch. They are no longer doing standalone systems. They are building systems which can run on what we call virtual machines. So currently what we do these days, we buy virtual machines, storage You just buy a big chunk of storage, how many terabytes, and then you create virtual machines on that base machine. So when you go to server rooms these days, you will not see big machines. No, you will see a small rack, and they will tell you that thing is housing 100 TBs. Even this small thing is also housing 100 TBs, and it is carrying our core banking system. So currently, what people, when you're developing systems and ensuring that they are secure, you also have to ensure that they are compatible with the current technologies. Don't just do a system which can only run on Hitachi based storage. You have to do a system or develop a system that can run on, is compatible with the new versions, and also quite a number of firmware. Yeah, for those ones who understand now, who have already dived deeper into firmware and off the application level, now you understand. And also currently in technology, we are using containers and Dockers. As well, like most of us, I don't know how many of us here are familiar with Unix platform, but most organizations currently, as part of risk management to cut costs, we are running towards Unix, because these Unix flavors are currently free, no licenses, and you just pay some small support. For Oracle Linux, you pay a small support. Ubuntu, a small support for your servers, and SUSE, a small support, all those flavors. So, and they support containerization and stroke Dockers, and those guys understand those technologies. Now, if you don't and you're not interested, it's okay. But if you're interested, please go ahead and read about these technologies. You will find them in the industry when you come, and it will give you an edge, because most organizations are just kickstarting on this particular containerization technologies. Yeah, but you have to ensure that also your containers are secure as you're doing your technology risk management or your technology custodianship. And last but not least is your network. Technology can, that system cannot run without network. Network is key. Even without network, we wouldn't be communicating. But we are, all of us, in the comfort of our maybe homes or lecture rooms or offices currently, and we are communicating and we are sharing this knowledge, all because a network is working. And currently I am having a hardware, which is a laptop, and you guys are having your own hardwares. You might be on your iPads, you might be on your phones, on your laptops, and we are able to listen to each other through a web-based, or somebody installed a small Zoom, and it is enabling us to communicate. So when you go into a particular environment, you're given an opportunity maybe for internship or for graduate training opportunity, or for a real job. First of all, try to understand their technology environment and how each of these ones is working or is interconnected to each other. After understanding their technology, please go ahead and understand their processes. Okay, how do you manage patches? How do you manage changes on technology? How do you manage new projects? How do you manage people who want to access? Yeah, it will help you now start building your risk management mind. After understanding that, you will go ahead and understand the people involved. Now, you're one of the people involved when it comes to technology risk management. The moment you're an administrator on a system, you're already in our environment, what we call a privileged user. This is how it works. Now, when a person comes in as a bank teller, we give them still a workstation like the one they will give you, and they give them access to the system, the front end. You know, all the other people know only just the front end system. And for them, the moment you give them their username and password, they just put them in, and voila, they can access and maybe issue money to a certain limit they have been approved to limit. If it is 10 million, they can only issue 10 million. Every day of their lives, when they open their computers to that particular banking system, all they will be able to do, click a few buttons, issue money, click a few buttons, deposit money. Now you the person who has been deployed in the technology wing. Now, let me start with the technology wing before I go to risk wing. You has been deployed in the technology wing. We are going to give you administrator rights, because for you to do your job, you need more rights, or you need more access to the system. Now, if you are a system administrator, you will get access to the operating system, meaning that back end which the other teller person doesn't need to know. The operating system hosting the application that teller is using is what you're going to be managing. So that means if you're compromised in one way or the other, or if you are drunk somewhere, and then you tell your birthdays and you give out your passwords, and then you take them to your office, you guys see, I have this job, look at my chair, let me even log in for you. The moment you're compromised to that extent and somebody picks your credentials and misuses them to do fraudulent activities, or even just clicking shutdown of the operating system, the entire system is down. Yet when a teller is compromised, the best they can do is issue that only 10 million. But here for you, the system is either down, or for a person who they give database rights, they can do some back-end transactions and they give money to quite a number of people. That's when you hear a lot of saga in financial institutions, when the database admin has been compromised and they are carrying out back-end transactions and issuing money to people. First, the controls are maybe lacking, but secondly, the people aspect of risk management has been compromised. So when you are at the risk management side, you may not have these administrative rights like somebody who is the system administrator, but your job is to ensure that this system administrator has enough controls. We talked about controls are those actions to ensure that they reduce or they modify the risk. They have enough controls to ensure that this person does not misuse the privileges, to ensure that the technology is kept available, that data it remains with its integrity, and also the confidentiality of this data is kept. So in a nutshell, I've worked in banking and in fintech and telecom. Currently, their main aim of IT risk management, and wherever you go currently, it is no longer, mainly in banking and telecoms and fintechs, they no longer just say we need a person for financial risk management. Financial risk management currently is a no-brainer, provided these processes are working fine. But there is critical need for somebody who understands the technology and comes in and does the risk management to ensure that the controls are sufficient to reduce that risk to a given or a tolerable state. Then, oh, I didn't change this. This is lines of defense. I'll go through very, very, very fast. I've talked about this a little bit. When you come to risk management, generally, whether it's technology or financial operations, when you come to risk management, there's what they call lines of defense. Lines of defense, it is more of like we are in a front battle or we are in a war, and we have our first troop. If it fails, our second troop will curb the enemy. If it fails, our third troop will curb the enemy. Either way, the enemy will not go and will not go away or will not escape. And with that, you find that in the companies currently, especially the ones I've worked with, these industries, they have the first line of defense to risk management. And this is us who have understood the technology for technology risk management. For operations, we shall have the bank managers, the bank operations teams, the credit teams, but let's focus on what we understand best, IT. They are system owners. These might be business people or technology people. They are custodians as the technology people who understand how things are working. And then they are the business, the system users. These are the bank tellers, and also you again, who has administrator rights. Their job is to ensure that the defined controls around the process of how to access the system, when to patch the system, when to check for vulnerabilities, when to fix the vulnerabilities are maintained and they are effective. Then the other thing is to ensure that on their day-to-day basis, they ensure that the risk and controls around that particular system are maintained. They don't give out their passwords. They do not give unauthorized access to people. They do not extract data from the system and share it without authorization. So this is the first line of defense. Now, in case this line makes a mistake, there is what they call the second line of defense, the risk team. It will always come into the IT space to check on you. How are you working? How are you working? They have their procedures, as we shall see down there. How are you working? Is this control working fine? No, maybe it is not adequate enough. Let us fix it. So in this category, we have the risk management teams and also the compliance teams. They keep on monitoring, and also they monitor the risk movement. Oh, the risk is going high, or it's going lower, or it's staying at the same rate. You will see how they do it, because this is what it's all about. Then the third level is auditors. Now these auditors can be internal.
Yes, please, madam.
Please be patient.
Sorry, I'm back. Sorry, I had muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. We're on the auditors. These auditors can be external or internal. Their job is similar to risk management. However, for them, they maintain their independence. The risk team will always come and check on you how you're performing your operations. The auditors will wait on you to finalize your operations, and they come when you're done to check for a particular period of time if you've done the operations right, or if you've done the control right. Then, for example, in the system base, they will come in and say, okay, for this period from January to February, please show us how you have done your patching. So, but the risk team can always prompt you and remind you, you're failing to do these patches. Please ensure that you do them in time. So the auditor's job is to ensure that it does not give more of, okay, it gives an independent report to senior management and board on the efforts put in by the second line team and the first line team to ensure that the controls are working, or the IT risk is within tolerable levels to the institution. I know of institutions who have closed, or who are even looking right now for mergers, because they had a lot of fraudulent activities through their IT operations or through their technologies. So you find that because you have implemented these good technologies, you're not providing assurance whether the technologies are working fine, number one, or there are no fraudulent transactions through these technologies, or actually we are not being hacked on a day-to-day through these technologies. And these things keep on happening without them being identified. It leads to financial loss, and in most cases, since the management doesn't have oversight of it, it will lead to management making wrong spending decisions, thinking they are making money, yet actually they are not making money. The reporting system is compromised. It is giving wrong revenue figures, and they are relying on these figures to make decisions. At the end of 5 years, the company is bankrupt. But it all began with the auditor not having that IT risk management mind to ensure that when I'm checking this particular system, which is supporting this money-making process in our organization, what am I supposed to look out for? So when you come into the company or the corporate world, or whichever company you will go to, or even when you begin your own, it's always critical to look out for who is managing my technology risk. If your business is riding on technology, even when you're employed or given an opportunity to train in a given in a given institution or company, please take an initiative. Even though you're in IT, take an initiative to know who is doing risk management and how are they doing it, who is doing audit and how are they doing it. By that inquisitivity, you will find yourself understanding more on what is going on. Actually, sometimes you find that the custodian does not know that there's been a fraud. Why? Because sometimes they are the key suspect. So we will not tell them, we have already given you administrator rights to the system and the system has been compromised. You yourself haven't reported it. So when these teams are carrying out their investigations, they don't tell you because you are a key suspect. The next time you hear, they just tell you, please leave your computer here and follow us. But if you here have that risk mind, in one way or the other, you will get to know that something is wrong. When you look at the audit trail of transactions, or when you're doing that system services monitoring, you will notice that I was asleep at 4 a.m. However, I note that at 4 a.m. To 5 a.m. my system was down and it came back. I didn't reboot it. You go back and check your syslogs and then you find out, but the system also did not initiate the reboot, meaning somebody initiated it. So you proactively can report that incident. And maybe you plus the forensic people in risk audit can maybe who understand forensic, or they can bring on some external person to help you with the forensic. You guys can go ahead and assess what really happened with the system. But because you don't have that risk mind on how best to understand what has gone wrong in my system, you will not be able to curb this and you'll be suspect number one all the time. And these teams will carry out their investigations on your behalf. But when in every corporate environment currently, these are the lines of defense, and including finance and operations, the IT team is needed here. Somebody with an IT mind is needed. Okay, now what is the risk management process? This is the source from ISO, risk management standard stroke framework, and organization to organization, this does not change too much. First of all, before I come here, because it's going to lead us to something a little more verbal practical, when you come to an organization, there are quite a number of risks. It's not only IT risk. There is strategic risk. Maybe you've begun your company, your fintech company, but you know that there are quite a number of competitors out there. But as you've just begun it, also there is a new competitor in the market. So you find that you need to find a way of strategically positioning yourself in the market to get customers. These are usually people who are called business analysts. They usually help with this, but we are bright. We can always read about these things and also advise ourselves. But it's always good to bring on a business analyst to help you out with this risk. Compliance and regulatory risks, this one, if whichever industry you're going to invest in or whichever industry you're going to work in, currently there is heavy regulation. And if you do not comply with the regulations, there are heavy penalties. You might find that all your car profits, first, URI has taken it because you're not paying tax. Secondly, NITA comes for you because you're not complying to data protection and regulation. If you're fintech, BOU comes for you because you have not met their reporting requirements. Before you know it, if you're also a fintech, FIA comes for you. Before you're still there, NITA also comes for you. Your technology is not licensed. So if you're starting a company, please get yourself to be aware of your regulatory environment and know how you will abide by the laws. There are always people like you who understand compliance and regulation. Most people use lawyers, but you guys can read. If you're starting a new business, you can read, and you can once in a while check out with other people in the industry. For organization, people who are going to be employed in organizations, you will find always a risk a compliance stroke regulatory department or legal department, and it is helping you out with this. It will, or if you're in technology, it will keep on reminding you of your technology regulatory requirements, and you share with them that information, and they will help you submit to the regulator. If you're on risk, they will also still come to you and tell you the risk related reports required by the regulator, and they will help you file them on your behalf. The financial risk, if you begin your new company, sometimes you might begin on maybe a family loan, commercial loan, a grant, something like that. So you have to watch out for the interest rise in most cases. Here I'm just giving an examples, but I'm just giving examples, but they are broad. And other companies have gone down and broken these risks into sub risks. Like you'll find that most companies have one bigger risk, operational risk, but under it there is processes, there is credit, and then there is technology and information security. I don't know of any course in Uganda which is lightly only just information security, but in our years, us who started technology stroke engineering, with this understanding, you can dive into information security. It was easier for me to understand the technology and risk management therein. So when I started on self-reading what it takes to hack somebody, what does it do, what do you do to do a penetration test, to conduct a vulnerability assessment, it was easier for me because I was understanding the technologies. So all of us on this call are in position to provide assurance or to conduct technology risk management and information security risk management. Currently where I'm working, it is one team doing both. Though that there is the technology operations, that's a different team. The information security operations, that's a different team. But when it comes to the risk management team, there is one team supporting these two risks management. And actually in most organizations, it will be like that. For the banks I know of, it's also like that. Even in the telecoms I've worked in, the person providing technology risk management also provides information security risk management. So you should be embraced with understanding what's happening in information security versus also understanding the underlying technology. Back to our risk management process. Before you say, okay, I am into risk management, you should ask yourself, after I've understood what it is, I've understood what a risk is, and my job is to ensure for technology, I maintain the confidentiality, integrity, and that these systems are available. But I am not the custodian. So how am I going to ensure that this CIA triad is maintained? First of all, this will help you what we are going to do today. First is for you understanding the context of what you're going to review. Let's say we are going to review a certain system and its particular processes. So we are going to review a banking system which issues out money to people. Let's call it the core banking system. It keeps people's data. It also has other systems integrated with it, like ATM, like mobile banking, like agents. Yeah. So that's your context. You're building your scope, you're understanding the context of what that scope is. And now the criteria will be more saying, okay, now which one of these is key to me? My key system is the core banking system. However, I would also like to test the different interfaces to these other systems like the ATM, the mobile banking, and the agent banking. So now you have formed your criteria. You've understood your scope, in the context in which you want it, you're going to test, and also the criteria, who is key and who is the other, which when you come this side, we call it the ecosystem. So when it starts with the risk management process starts with risk assessment. Under risk assessment is you identify the risk. and then you analyze the risk, and then you evaluate the risk. After evaluating the risk, you will know whether it is high or low. And if it is low, you will say, I will treat by monitoring. If it is high, you say, oh, we need to implement some control. Remember those terminologies we used. We need to implement some control. And then you define the treatment method. After defining the treatment method, you can report to maybe your management or to the business, I mean to the technology head, or to the director of the company, and then you keep on monitoring and review. At the same time, because you are a risk person, you are not audit who comes in at the end, you have to keep that communication and consultation going post the assessment, prior the assessment. It will be very hard for you to be on top of your game when you are an IT risk manager somewhere or officer somewhere, and you do not know what's happening in the environment. You see, these things are textbook things, but in the real world environment, they are done in real time. So here we are just understanding the context as it is in books, but when it comes to ground here, what I've learned is you just have to keep on understanding the business, keep on understanding what new projects have come in, what new reviews compliance requirements have come in, what vulnerabilities has Microsoft published, Oracle published. Okay, we have recently done penetration tests. What were the outcomes? What were the findings? Have we mitigated them? How are our input output controls? How is access managed, change management managed? Like, you keep understanding your business over and over, because currently technology is moving fast. Hence, the technology department in whatever organization you work in is not stagnant. They are also onboarding new systems. They're also changing technologies. So you find that if, according to your schedule as a risk manager, you're saying, okay, this quarter I will test the applications, next quarter I test the network, next quarter I assess the operating systems, then next quarter I will assess data. So by the end of those quarters, the year has ended already. So by the time you come back to applications, it's a new year and a lot has changed in your environment. So to keep on checking in is the better way for you to keep abreast with the environment. So even when you come to do an assessment, it's easier for you. So these are some of the areas where people do risk management, or an IT risk manager would come in to provide assurance. Projects ongoing, you provide project risk management, IT quality assurance. I know some of us may be wanting to work for companies like Huawei, like CBIL, Computer Tech, Edge Technologies. Wherever you guys know and you have done intern, you know those companies currently in Uganda who are taking on the bigger technology teams. So having an understanding of project risk management will be important. Why? Because for them, their work is not like a typical banking or an organization. For them, they provide project services or they implement systems for these organizations. So you will be on a project implementing a system, but having that understanding of project risk management will make you stand out. First, to the customer you're providing that services to, but also to the colleagues you're working with. And in that standout, even though you want to go into entrepreneurship or extend your career or improve your career, grow your career, it will be easier for you. But your standout point will be that no, you were not just an implementer of that application or installation, because usually they will give you actually the steps to follow, but you went ahead and understood the IT project risk, and you were able to identify it and mitigate it in time. It's a good standout. But part of what an IT risk manager does too is also to come in and do these reviews, maybe when they're happening or after the projects are happening. Other assessments are like you can do compliance reviews. Currently, there are quite a number of bodies which we can call bodies that have shared benchmarks. When you go on internet right now, you can put in Center for Information Security. Now, this Center for Information Security, it has taken it upon itself for it whenever there is a new flavor of operating system, whether it is Microsoft, whether it's Cisco, whether it's whatever firewall, whether it is Postgres, they review it and they come up with a benchmark for it in terms of how securely can somebody harden their environment when they have this particular operating system, when they have this particular Cisco switch, when they have this particular Nessus switch, when they have this particular operating system, when they have this particular database. Actually, even the versions of the database are outlined there. So for you as an IT risk manager, you may not have to reinvent the wheel on, oh, what is the standard best practice out there. These reviews have been done for you by, I've just given one example, Center for Information System Security. So you just go, you pitch that standard, ensure that the IT team you're assessing is aligned to that standard, that they find that the recommendations of that benchmark or standard works for them. And then you go ahead and you review what they have implemented versus what the benchmark is saying. Other examples of compliance reviews are more of NITA data protection has told us to do this, but have you done it? So you get that IT regulation versus what you have implemented. The governance reviews, you say, okay, give me your IT policy. And you say your IT policy says you should have done A, B, C, D. Okay, let me not say A, B, C, D. Your IT policy says you should have implemented a perimeter firewall. Please show me that you implemented this perimeter firewall. Then you go ahead and say, okay, this perimeter firewall should be adequately configured to prevent or to filter traffic from outside. Please show me this. And then you go ahead and review. That's called a governance review. Such reviews, you may choose to report on the compliance level, or you can choose to report on the gaps only, and then also support the team identify how best they can fix these gaps. For security assessments, they are vulnerability assessments. They are supported by vulnerability tools. Currently, they are online. If you don't know, there is Nessus, for example, there is Acunitex, and Acunitex, then there is there are quite a number flowing over my head. Some of them are free. You can test them on your laptop. Others, you have to pay some small money. But for you to understand how these things works, visually, they also have a benchmark within them which they use against a certain IP you have given them. So they will, if you're all on the same network at MOOC, and you can scan to know which people are on the network and active. So you're using that vulnerability assessment tool or scanning tool, you put in the IP, they'll be able to tell you the vulnerabilities on that particular device. Note, information security assessments have to only be done when the owner of the workstation or laptop or phone you are doing that assessment on has authorized. Otherwise, it becomes unethical. Hence, you are a lawbreaker and you're what they call hackers. That is a note. But for you to learn, you can team up and do this. Actually, there are hackathons online. You go to LinkedIn for those ones who are interested in security assessments. Go to LinkedIn and look out for those groups of people. There are hackathons where they give you sandboxes and you start your own hacking thing with friends you've never met. Just ensure it is ethical and you do not go crazy like the many groups out there in the world who have gone crazy and their job is just to disrupt the world. but you can do it to learn and then ethically ask for permission from your friend, from your mother. Can I hack your phone? From your lecturer, may I hack the MOOC IT systems? Yeah, you ask them, they give you authorization, and you test your skills. And in one way or the other, they are also gaining. But when you come to the company environment or out here where we are, you'll find that for you to perform these tests, you have to be authorized, even though you are a staff in an IT risk department or IT audit department, and you conduct a vulnerability assessment without authorization. You go to disciplinary committee, and because they don't know your intentions, why you didn't get authorization, and in most cases you will be fired on grounds of indiscipline and hacking. And in the banking industry, if you're fired under those grounds, it will be hard for you to get back to the banking industry again. And I'm seeing it also going into the fintech, because they are highly regulated by Bank of Uganda. So when you're in the corporate world, please take note. If you're in the NGO world, I don't know the repercussions, I haven't got them secondhand, but you might be imprisoned for life. UN will imprison you for life. Don't play around. The best thing is you have your skills, talk to your bosses. You guys, may I have these skills, I can support you, get authorization, go ahead and display your skills, and it will be good for your career actually. Other areas of testing, technology controls, these ones most of us understand. Error handling, yeah, for those ones who are that software people, you're in code all the time trying to fix that small comma you did not put somewhere. So those error handling processes, how they are being done, can we able to capture how do we call it, baggage in, baggage out? So these input controls are supporting you to ensure that baggage doesn't go in. Processing controls is the computer processing rate. Some of us develop apps and we put in a calculator to calculate to calculate people's ages, and it is calculating it wrongly embedded within the application. So these processing controls help curb those things which are not processing right. Then output controls is the reporting coming out in the format needed? Is it coming out with the right parameters? If maybe somebody puts in their date of birth and the current date, when they're outputting, do they output the right age, or they are outputting still current date? So this particular controls processing and details around is mainly when you understand that application, the bank or that organization is using, and then further you can go ahead and define, oh, these controls should be in place, oh, this processing controls should be in place, and then you test whether they are working fine. It's the same with these processes: incident management, change management. How is the technology team doing managing their incident? How do they observe them? Are they proactive or are they reactive? In one way or the other, you would go ahead and support them improve their processes. When it comes to business continuity and resilience, it is ensuring now the other thing of availability, apart from the incident management bit. This goes further into saying, okay, in case of an event that the core banking system of a certain bank is down, how will people access their money? Yeah, now the system is down, or it has crashed, or there is somebody who was given administrative access and then got drunk, took his buddies to office, and they shut down the operating system, and the system, the database was shut down too. So the system is not available. What happens? There's what they call redundancy. Redundancy means that I have this system, somebody has logged into Showcase to his birthdays, but I also have another system that is either half partially or 100% like that system somewhere else. So this person can't log in into both systems at the same time. And one is active and maybe the other one is standby and only comes on board when this one is down. So in case you, the birthday is drunk and your friends have switched it off, or they have compromised the system on your account, the system automatically, the moment it notices that, hey, my birthday is off, the other one at standby, comes up. That is what they call redundancy. And for organizations to ensure that actually they are implemented redundancy works, usually they do what they call testing of disaster recovery plans. These plans are usually defined by people who have understood the environment. Usually the governance people define these plans, and also there's usually that testing that it really works, and also that backup, or done some day back, can it be recovered, so that at least in case both the redundancy and the primary are down, we can switch over. You've had in most cases where they say network internet, MTN internet is down, but you find an organization that is dependent on MTN is continuing to work. They have also implemented redundancy now at the network level. So redundancy is not only at the application or system level, it's also at the network level. In most companies you will go to currently, they do not have one ISP, internet service provider. They will have quite a number. You even MOOC, you find that they do not have one NETA. No, you find that maybe the wireless, they have two, maybe Liquid Telecom and BCC. Then maybe the LAN, the cable, the fiber, maybe they have Rocket Telecom and MTN. So in just case that Rocket Telecom is not available, at least work can go on with the other provider. So that's part of redundancy. So when you're reviewing IT risk management, you also review these particular areas. Wow. How many minutes do we have? Okay, we have 2 minutes to 18:40. Before I go into the practical verbal example, do we have any questions? Because here I'm going to take us through how to conduct a risk assessment. But do we have any questions for what we have covered so far? Just maybe one question or two. Then we can go into the practical risk assessment. Is somebody writing?
I don't see anything in the chat, so maybe we could continue. And if someone has a question, they can put it. Oh, there's something.
Okay.
What's the difference between risk assessment and vulnerability assessment?
Okay, we shall take that one. What have I done to my screen? Okay, it's back. Now, vulnerability assessment is part of risk assessment, but for a risk assessment, let me bias myself to IT risk assessment. Is what I'm going to take you through. It is both going to be kind of engaging a person manually to identify a certain risk and process they are assessing, identify the controls in place, go ahead and say, okay, what is the likelihood of this? What is the impact of this happening? And what controls are, what percentage are the controls mitigating the impact or mitigating the likelihood? And what is my residual risk? That is risk management. Risk assessment. And that's what I'm going to take you through. When it comes to vulnerability assessment, in most cases, this is supported by tools in the security world. Let me start with that. So we have security scans that are conducted using vulnerability tools. Like NESAS, if time allows, I'll try to Google some of these tools, and you can play around with them in your normal life, provided you know the IP or the URL of that particular target you want to assess. Now, the goal of the vulnerability assessment is for you to understand the vulnerability. After understanding the vulnerability, you will have to put into context. To what extent is it posing a risk to my environment? One, if I assess the vulnerability, and the vulnerability is on that person's phone, I have scanned, there is no password. So that means I have an opening, I have a gap I have seen on this person's phone. When I get a threat actor, like somebody who wants to steal information from this person's phone, they can easily go to this person's phone. No need of password, they just open it and then they access the information. So now with risk assessment, you're saying, wow, that is my vulnerability. And now somebody can act on this vulnerability. Likelihood is high. Why? No password. And what is the impact? Now, if you find somebody's phone has only contacts of family, and those family members don't mind you sharing their phone numbers, impact is low. So the risk rating may be medium low. But if you find this person's phone has personal contact of the president of Uganda, which shouldn't be shared to the outside world, only just a closed group of people, then the risk may be high. I mean, the impact may be high. So you find that the vulnerability assessment will feed into your risk assessment before you report that a certain risk is high. When you assess, when you run a vulnerability scan on a tool and it tells you it is missing a particular patch on Chrome and they rate it low or medium according to Microsoft or according to those CVE people who rate those vulnerabilities you've identified, you cannot just report it and say, you guys, the risk is, oh no, and they say the risk is high. You cannot just report it and say, you guys, in your environment, you have a very, very high risk. Why? Because the scan tool has told me so. No, you as an IT risk person, you're going to come back and put it back into your risk assessment tool. Wow, I'm going into risk management. Most risk departments have risk assessment tools. So whatever I'm going to discuss here is more of what you'll find in every tool, but it might be named differently. So those risk management tools, they can automatically do the qualitative and quantitative assessment of the risk, and then they give you the risk rating, or whether it is unacceptable, or whether we should immediately treat, or whether we should transfer the risk. They usually guide the risk team on what to do. But you, the technology people, we've done this manually. We can derive these ourselves in most cases. Hopefully that answers the two: vulnerability assessment and risk management. And thank you for that question. So when we come to how do we conduct our risk assessment, the goal of the risk assessment is to note and report to management that actually there is a risk and it's high in the environment. And according to our risk management, to our risk tolerance, we can treat it like this, or transfer it like this, or accept it like this. And these are the action plans I've agreed with the technology team. And this is the person who is going to action the plan. And this is the date of actioning the plan. So the goal is starting from here, like the end result starts from here. This is mainly what you're going to report to management. But where does it all begin? Remember, according to our risk management process, we said we get our scope, we put it into context, and we have a criteria. After we've got our scope, you can say, okay, according to my scope, I'm going to look at the change management process. What risks are there in the change management process? You can use either of these assessments. You can look at what the policy says. You can run a vulnerability scan, what changes were done and they did not follow process. They will give you the latest changes on that particular device. Even actually here, if you use Actually, this will be the best. If you use Nessus, it can show you what people have been doing on the system, and you can fall back and say, okay, this did not follow the process. You can use input and out and controls process testing, and from there you can know what particular risk or what control you're testing in that environment. So here you come with understanding what the process is, number one, and what can go wrong in that process according to your understanding, and what can cause that process to go wrong, and what is the impact of that process going wrong, before even you put into consideration what the IT team has done as first line to ensure that the process does not go wrong. After understanding what can go wrong and what the impact of that thing going wrong, you can either say, okay, according to my understanding, now here we're on the manual bit, we haven't brought in the system bit. According to my understanding of the environment, my expertise as the IT risk personnel, the probability of this is the probability of this particular risk happening is either rare, unlikely, possible, likely, almost certain. Now, in whatever environment you will go to, you will find, usually some people use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other people will use these words, but not exactly these words, but mirroring these words. And other people will use percentages. Most systems will use percentages. If you go to an environment which is mature, you'll find that they have these systems. But it's up to you to understand what these systems are and how to use them. So you will have to choose either after understanding what your process is. And then you go out and say, what is the impact in case it goes wrong, this change management process goes wrong, meaning for this particular change, the change management process was not followed, meaning you're almost certain. What could go wrong? You might find that the change you have identified, or the vulnerability you have identified, even though it is exploited, it's to the business, no impact, no money is lost. It's just some access which somebody would use and nothing happens. So it's no impact. Or some money would be lost, which will lead to significant, or even the business objectives may be damaged because lots of money would be lost. Even there is reputation damaged. Bank ABCD has been hacked and they have lost 50 billion shillings. That would be catastrophic. Actually, some banks in Uganda here can close after such a fraudulent activity from just exploiting a vulnerability from a vulnerability assessment or scan conducted by somebody. So the inherent risk rating, we usually use this method. And then, there's this word inherent. Inherent means it is you're putting the risk probability or the risk impact rating without considering any controls in place to mitigate against that process going wrong, or to mitigate against that known vulnerability or that assessed vulnerability. For example, what I have just said before, that the phone does not have a lock. So that is an open gap for somebody to go in. Inherently, without putting any controls in place, somebody may say it is catastrophic, very high. Because in case somebody exploits it, ABCD can go wrong. So when you start assessing the controls in place, this is where you ask the IT team, what governance controls have you defined? What technology controls have you defined around this area? And you can go ahead and test the effectiveness of these controls. Controls can be preventive, they can be detective, they can be corrective, they can be technological in nature, like a firewall. Somebody sets up a firewall to ensure that, even though that URL is accessed by everybody in the world and they can access it, after accessing that URL, you cannot come into the internal network before the firewall filters you out or before you are authenticated in a particular manner. So you find that everybody will log that particular IIS page, but they will not be able to log in. So these are some of the preventive controls. They will help you understand you as a risk person, because you're not the one who implemented them. It's always better when you're doing a risk assessment to consult the technology team. And do not take their word by their word. Your job is to understand the controls implemented and assess if these controls are working fine. Like we said before here, under testing of controls, you test if they are saying that they have implemented the filter. Ask them to log into the firewall and they show you those firewall policies. If they tell you, for us, anyone who has access to the system has gone through the access management process, please let them show you those forms and let them show you the people who have access to the systems. It is at your discretion as the risk person to say that according to the evidence provided to me, the control is effective, or according to the evidence provided to me, the control is lacking. This is where you report this. Whether it's effective, there is some minor improvement required, there is a major improvement required, it's inefficient, but you have to list down your reasons why. And now you're going to act as an advisor and advise them on what they should do. Now, after you saying it is effective, in most cases, you're saying that the probability of this vulnerability or of this process going wrong, is low, maybe rare or unlikely. And the impact is also low according to the preventive controls implemented. That means the residue is going to be also low because you have said it is effective. If you say there is a major improvement, your assessment here has to tally with what you're saying. Major improvement versus what they are also supposed to be doing. You will say, actually, with these controls in place, there is still major improvement required in this particular control area. So this vulnerability, it is possible to be happening in our environment. And in case it is exploited, there will be significant damage. And according to my formula here, it is high. And then you can go in and report this. After reporting this to the IT team and yourself, you will have to go ahead and agree according to your recommendations that, okay, to improve or to move this from major improvement to minor improvement or to effective, we have to do A, B, C, D. In most cases, it's rare for business to accept a high risk. Accepting a high risk means I can live with it. For example, you take borders, you can say, I can live with taking my border. I have my helmet. That's your control. And when you assess the effectiveness of that control, you can say, there's minor improvement. When I fall down, my head remains, it's only my leg which gets broken. And I can live with that. Either I transfer, I get some insurance for it, and then the rest, in case I get a problem, I go to my insurance company for it. Now that's day life. It is the same thing with IT. There is also insurance, that's transfer. There is a void. You'll find that if it's a new system coming into the environment and somebody has scanned it and it has quite a number of, has done a vulnerability assessment on it, and it has quite a number of vulnerabilities which the company cannot fix in a given time, they say, please take back your system, go and fix yourself. That's avoiding. And then treatment means, okay, you have identified like 3 vulnerabilities from your vulnerability assessment. So they say, let us treat them, maybe using a patch, maybe a fix, maybe configuring it the right way. And we call it in IT hardening the right way. Then those are the plans you're going to put here. Whenever the risk strategy or response is treat or accept or transfer, there is always an action that follows. However, if it is avoid, meaning you abort mission. If it has been a change management process, you abort that change. If it has been access to a vendor to access your systems remotely, you abort that. Now that is just one example. And with verbal words. Now let me take you through what you will normally face if you're doing a manual risk assessment. Example, access control. Access control means, I'm going to put it in the context of logical access control, not physical. Physical access means like when somebody is entering your premises or the organization, what controls, what requirements do they need to have? A badge, or maybe a fingerprint, or maybe an authorization form, so that when they go somewhere, somebody can be able to open for them. That's physical access. But when it comes to logical access is this access you get to mock systems through a computer. Every student has login details. But how do they get these login details? When they are new students, they have registered maybe to get this online library access or examination portal access or other accesses you guys use. There is that registration, and after registration they give you your credentials. You find that in most cases you will not be able to use other person's credentials for yourself unless when you share them. So this access control example is going to be looking at both, but in most cases let us use the first one as for physical, because it's relatable to anybody here even without understanding a system. For us who are in this course, we're still shying away from systems. Let us stop. That's where the world is going. And just a few days, a few years from now, you're going to be sailing, but what is going to sail you is understanding the trading technology and how you will manage risk around it. But for this example, let us use the physical access. So our process you're looking at is access control. When you go to access control, you will list down what can go wrong with access control. But globally, somebody might say, my risk here I'm going to assess is inability to manage physical access to assets, which could lead unauthorized access to information. Here, when you talk about assets, we are biased to IT assets, which will lead to unauthorized access to organizational information. So when I put the word physical access, meaning I'm now limiting my scope to the physical bit, not the logical bit. So before I put into consideration any controls, somebody may say, how likely is it to happen? It is a 4. Remember what we said, in every organization, there is the way they do their things. So a 4, in these cases, it is likely. And what is the impact of it happening? So it is severe, but somebody can go further and share qualitative notes of what the impact is. Probability is it is likely. Why? Because somebody can give examples, because the moment somebody comes in, there is no CCTV camera watching them, there is no biometric, they just come in and wave to everybody, hi, hi, hi. Before they know it, they have access to the server room. So meaning it is likely. And there is impact, and if somebody reaches the server room, they can just pull out a cable. And when they pull out the cable, access to information is lost, access to services is lost. Why? The system is down. I mean, the network is down. The system will continue running, but the network cable is out, meaning no one can access the network, meaning no one can access the system. Hence, 16 is usually a high. So then you go ahead and say, these ones will work out themselves after you understanding the impact and the probability. Then you go ahead and say, okay, what are the controls in place? What controls has this department, IT team, put into place before somebody can access the server room? You can say they've implemented CCTV to deter. That means, CCTV is both preventive and detective. It will detect you if you're doing wrong, and then we play you backward if you're denying, and then capture you, and it can be used against you in course of law. However, there are some people who, before doing anything wrong, they will look around and say, oh, is somebody seeing me? And then they will see the camera. So it deters somebody from getting unauthorized access. Then they've also implemented card access, meaning if you do not have a card which is authorized to patch in and the door opens, you will not be able to go in. Also, secondly, there is another level of approval to the server room or to the data centers, meaning that even though you get access to the premises, to go to the actual server room or the data center, you will require another access. This time around, it might be a PIN, it might be your face, it might be your fingerprint, it might be another card required. Or then the other control may say, oh, for this particular team, for this particular company, they have gone ahead and they have visitor access control procedures and identification. You go in a certain company where they are really, really strict. For you to leave the reception, you have to have put on a card, a badge to identify you. And even though you're trying to piggyback on somebody and you don't have that badge, they will tap you and say, go back to the reception because you don't have the badge. So you find yourself that, wow, they've implemented all these. And then you assess and say, now what can go wrong? According to you, it might be minor improvement, because when you look at what can go wrong, the only thing that can go wrong is somebody piggybacking without being noticed and to the server room. But how likely is that? It is unlikely, because even though you piggyback, you don't have access to the card. You will reach at the server room door and just look and gaze, because you can't go in. And also the CCTV are seeing you. And then you say, what is the impact? Okay, maybe in case they're able to piggyback and go in, and maybe be able to access the door of the server room, they might do something. So maybe you can leave it at a 3, meaning that it is, according to our it is significant impact in case they're able to maneuver these controls and go in. So according to our formula, it will remain a 3, and in most cases low. Most companies, if the risk is low, they do nothing about it. But you will go to other companies where they want next to 0 risk, meaning they want a 1 times 1. So you will have to go ahead and help the team define what additional measures can be put in place to ensure that we eliminate these 3. You might find that you can go ahead and say, okay, even though somebody is able maybe to go in after bypassing all these controls, and they're able to go in and they pull out a cable, we have redundancy which will kick in. If they're able to power water on the server, we have still redundancy which will kick in. Remember the other redundancy we talked about? So that can also be an action plan in case the redundancy is not there. So this is a real life example. Your working paper will always look like this. If it is manual, usually most companies have their own templates, so it is always wise to follow their templates. And for you, you can always currently I've been working for quite a long time, so when I get a new member in my team, whether they are experienced or not, whenever I share my governance documents, the way we do things, the way risk team is doing things, and I share with them, I always listen to what they have to say. They may not be having the experience or that level of technology knowledge around the environment, but one way or the other, they are able to say, no, when we were in class and we were reading about ABCD, we noted that the formula of doing ABCD is like this. However, currently, you guys are doing it in this particular way. Can you clarify? In a way of clarifying, you may find that the company has been always doing it not the best way. So you can choose to speak to them and get to understand where they're coming from. It's not that they are wrong, but in one way or the other, you might improve their way of assessing risk. Or you might find that for them, they do not have even any template. Or they just send you and tell us about the risk there. And then you come up with a beautiful template on how you have been able to derive the risk residue and the operating effectiveness, and then you can take to them. You might find that for them, even they do not assess or they don't report on the operating effectiveness. The operating effectiveness is key. Why? Because as you as a risk person, you will keep on continuously monitoring the risk. So you will find that if this effectiveness changes, something has changed in the controls. That means some control around here is not working fine. You might find that the guy giving card access is the guy bringing in wrong people. So at a given point, the company spends an entire month where the card access system does not work. So what the people have to do is to open the doors and leave them wide open. So for that particular month, when you are assessing, you find that, this control is not working the way it's supposed to be working. So it is easier to trend how your controls are working and report on them. In that way, it helps the organization drive value and also showcase your brilliance in this space. The last one where I want us to have, where we're having one with an action plan is awareness. What is awareness and training? Awareness and training in an organization, because they know that even people without technology knowledge have been given access to laptops, because they have to access systems to work. Nothing is manual these days. Even to sign off a document, people are using online digital signatures or online signature tools like DocuSign and stuff like that. So you go to an environment which is paperless. And if it is paperless, meaning everything is technological. And these people are receiving phishing emails and they just click, oh, who is this? They don't know that there are people outside there through those phishing emails are picking their credentials. And before you know it, you hit. So a key process in most organizations is awareness and training, which is biased to security awareness and training, like teaching people both in the technology world and people who do not really understand technology, why you shouldn't just click any email, why you shouldn't give out your password, why we are prompting you to change your password every maybe 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, why you should not even share your laptop to your children to play games, why you should not download software from unauthorized platforms, such things. People do not know that they feel that when you refuse them to do that, you're taking away some rights. Man, the laptop is mine. Why are you telling me not to do ABCD? So you have to keep reminding them. Some organization have gone ahead like every week. Some people have to go through certain training because people forget. So now you are the IT risk manager, risk officer. You are being told to go and assess how this process is performing. So the risk here, if it is not in place at all, this risk stands. Actually, if you go to an environment and you're assessing a particular process and they do not have the process itself in place, just know whatever risk that comes with not performing that particular process control is lying in that environment, unless when they do not have technology, or they have chosen not, for example, wireless, they have chosen not to switch on wireless in that company. So you have to first understand the environment, like we said before, understanding your scope, putting it into context, and then you can come and assess. So awareness and training, lack of adequate, which could awareness training, which could lead to unintentional security breaches or prolonged inability to respond to security events. Sometimes I've been in an environment where somebody saw a cursor moving on its own and people just started laughing. You people come and see, my cursor is moving on its own. Come and see, as if they were seeing magic. That literally means somebody's having remote access to your computer. And you should shout out very highly to the security teams or IT teams to come and help you. But because they have not been trained, the cursor is moving, somebody's doing nothing but just excited. So those are some of the examples in the real world where you as a risk personnel, you come in to say, oh, it is possible. Or impact is high. Somebody's moving a cursor and you are a teller, a privileged teller who is authorized to issue 1 billion or post 1 billion shillings. Somebody moves the cursor from one page to another, clicking, authorize, poof, and the 1 billion is gone. For you, were happy, laughing. So the impact is really high because people don't know. Probability high, people don't know. Now, let's say there are some controls in place. There are some mandatory quarterly trainings, and the team is told to do them. There are annual screensavers. You know, most organizations have those beautiful screensavers. Yeah, in the corporate world, if you guys are busy on LinkedIn, you will see in a particular month of the year, over it's October, over it's there is what they call cybersecurity week, and every organization is posting about cybersecurity awareness. So those are the controls in the environment. And maybe you assess and say maybe there is some minor improvement, but on what account? That okay, it is likely, it is possible that the breaches can happen, and the impact will be significant that it can happen, and the risk rating is high. Now, when you make a mistake and your derived formula is telling you a particular risk rating, but you go ahead and report a wrong one, like in this example, it's usually you are misleading management. But if you go ahead and report that it's either high or medium, it can lead to the right response strategy. So we left here low for us to show us that so that I don't forget to tell you that if you misreport, you may mislead the organization. Somebody may say, oh, it is low, we can live with it. But if you give the right risk rating, it will prompt management to come up with the right response strategy to that risk. For example, in this example, treat it, and then they will say, on top of this, what we are doing, let us add bi-weekly awarenesses on the different topics so that we are always in people's faces, so that at least they do not forget and take this security reporting and security breaches thing lightly. So in this way, management has responded because let's say now somebody reported rightly. Let's take this as the reporting. Because somebody reported right, they are going to treat, and they are going to treat using this. You as an IT risk personnel, after understanding and agreeing with the technology team or with the security team, the key action plan, your job is to tell them when are you starting or when are you ending. You write it down. Risk owner is usually the head of department or the manager of the department. Action owner is that officer who is going to ensure that these bi-weekly communications go out. So as part of risk management, you have to go ahead and always remind them and assess how far with our action. Because the more they delay to implement, you're still living with a risk, however much you have identified it. Oh, let me go back to my table. How you have identified it, you have analyzed it, evaluated it with them, and now we are at treatment stage. You have reported. Reporting does not mean that the risk has gone away. Reporting means that the risk has been acknowledged by the risk owner or the company. Your job is to monitor and review until when that action is implemented. After the action is implemented, you go back and assess if it has addressed the problem. So that is risk management as it is happening. Like I said before, some corporations are still doing it manual. Actually, quite a number of the ones I've been in and the ones I know of currently, they are still doing it manually. But there are some risk management tools that are enabling some of the key areas. You might find that assessment, these ones, they are no longer done manually. They are within a system, but the actual work of assessing the risk, identifying the risk is still manual. So it fully relies on your knowledge. And there are some AI systems that have been put in the environment so that as a person inputs the risk, they go ahead and learn the environment, and in one way or the other, they can be able to inform you. There are also other things you will meet in the environment called risk indicators. Those are some of the parameters. They usually go through this particular process, but they are monitored maybe on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly, to inform how the risk is moving in the environment. So when you hear somebody talk about a key risk indicator or continuous control monitoring, these are the things you will hear in the corporate world when you come. Now somebody may ask me, now you've said things and now we are not understanding how we're going to apply them. True, you may not be able to apply this currently, but if you form groups and form projects, you can carry this out on MOOC IT environment. I'm sure they will be pleased for you to do it if you're doing it with the right in the right way, and you're able to be guided so that you do not share confidential information. One thing I failed to tell you, I forgot to tell you. You see, when you do a risk assessment, it and you share the results, some other person who wants to just hack can use that risk assessment, and they get to know the gaps in the environment, and then they can hack. That's why in most cases, to do a penetration test, to do a risk assessment, to do an audit, you have to be authorized by the company, by the institution, by the person onto which you're doing that audit. It is only what they call forensics investigation, where somebody may not give you authorization, that you may get authorization from maybe government, get authorization maybe from the company, and then you're doing the forensic on somebody or on a staff, because there it is more of now may go into a police case, and it has to be discretional, and something has already happened. So we are looking out for who did it. Literally, it is an investigation, but carried out by you, an independent person. And usually those forensics are done by people, us, in the technology world. So you guys just know that it's rich out there for the course you have done. Your job is to open up and be ready to learn, and also to embrace new technologies. Currently the use cases for the knowledge you are gaining, or the one you have already gained, uh, is let me call it in the word, it's scalable. Given that every time there are new technologies coming in, it is scalable. So just get started wherever you are. So this screen is about, how do I start? For after you've done with your course, or with your and you're interested in risk management, further in risk management, information security management, or risk management, or the IT audit, and literally IT assurance space, there are online free courses. There is this cyber IT. It's mainly a bias to information security risk management. It can teach you how SOC operations work, security operations center, how to analyze logs to know that something is going wrong. It can lead you into the audit world, and also into the forensics world too. So also the operational security space, and the IT risk management and IT risk management space, cybrary.it. And actually it also has some sandboxes currently. So some people pick a small money, like $5 a month,
I don't know how much that is. $5 is very small money. 50,000, right? 15, something like that. 15, 20,000, and you get access to this platform. You can test it out. There is Coursera. This one I know most of us know. Just don't go there for just strategic thinking, creative thinking. They are really good, but they also have some IT courses. Just put their IT risk management. They'll give you quite a number of courses you can start with. There was Udemy. Udemy also has the same as Coursera. Those free courses, just put in IT risk management, IT audit, they'll bring out right number. Google currently has courses. Actually, right now it is running 3 courses. Actually, through MOOC, even MOOC, I forgot to write here MOOC. MOOC has actually some courses ongoing, which are also free, and they give certifications. You look out on your university website. There are some free courses. Also, Google gives out some free courses. Just put in Google courses, IT risk management, and look out for the free courses they give. LinkedIn, I know you guys are good at many social media platforms. For many of us in the corporate world, we usually use LinkedIn to not only serve ourselves there, for those ones who want to employ our skills, but also to know what companies are giving. So what happened, some companies give free courses via LinkedIn, and they give certificates. So on top of TikTok, WeChat, WhatsApp, please also install LinkedIn, and look out for those professionals sharing their knowledge. And if you want those courses, you can go in and do them. They give you a good certificate. And actually, even webinars, almost every week there is a webinar running on LinkedIn. So if you take it upon yourself to attend those webinars, they give you grand knowledge about what's happening in any industry of your choice, and also in technology trends and risk management and what's going out there. So just embrace. These are just a few of the sources which are giving free resources for you to enlarge your knowledge in risk management and IT audit. For us who can afford to a few 500, 600, actually it is 700 for $50. Some are $1,000. You can go ahead for the international certifications. But for those ones who really want to go into the corporate world, usually when you get in, even without these courses, if you showcase that you have tried to look out for those free courses and you have got them, these corporate people in most cases will sponsor you for this if you demonstrate knowledge and you demonstrate that you want to grow in that area. But if you can save aside some $700, $1,000, you can go ahead and look out for these international certifications. They can also give you a higher, how do you call it, a higher advantage in the corporate world. For us who want to really begin our career in IT audits, IT risk management, may began mine in IT risk management from here. But there are very many I haven't listed here. There are very many accounting firms. Actually, if you want to know, you go to BOU website and look out for the accounting firms. Most of these accounting firms, because they cannot, like I said before, they cannot audit only financials. They have to audit where the financial reports are coming from. So they have to audit the IT systems. They need people like you. They need people like us who understand the IT systems, and we assess the IT systems, we do the risk management, we do the audit of the IT systems, so that them as the accountants and financial auditors can rely on our feedback. So for consultancy, look out for those consultant institutions. I know even the Western world, and also the how do you call it, that's USA island areas. I don't know if they're part of USA or not, but they are craving out for IT people who can do audit. And these are the same companies looking out for these people. So your sample space of spreading your wings in IT audit, in IT risk management is unstoppable. Just get your risk management knowledge top notch, understand the trends in the industry, practice as much as possible, and then you can't fail to outshine in these companies. And the opportunities are there for both beginners and experienced. They are always there, provided you showcase that you're ready and you understand that this is what I'm going for. And when we get out there, I know most of us, I will say, there's no money in being employed. That's true, but that's not true too, because some of us have seen the money and we have started maybe organizations or our businesses using this money. And most of us want to be employed, but we want to stay with the negative thinking that there is no jobs. I don't agree with you. If you're really focused into getting experience, look out for graduate training programs. Almost every bank in Uganda offers a graduate training program. They won't give you so much money at the beginning, but after 3 months of that training program, it has given you insight of what is happening in that particular industry. So you know whether it is for you or not for you. There are other government parastatals that are offering the same. Tap into that. And like I said here, these ones even do not need you to have an experience. Tap into that. What this coming out with your degree and then going to business is very good, and also becoming an entrepreneur is very good. But you'll find that when you read about the greatest entrepreneurs of the people we are reading about, and the successful ones who we all admire and aspire to become, they have a story of being able to learn under somebody. So being able to learn under somebody, meaning you're being employed by somebody. It can be your daddy, it can be your family member, but there is that learning you get when you're under somebody, which will help you thrive in your business. So if you do not have that opportunity of being under your daddy's company or your family member's company, reach out to these institutions and programs. They are available. Reach out to them, apply, do not fear. Your degree from MOOC is more than enough. Apply, add a few course certificates from these free courses. Go into that interview room with confidence. You don't need to know anybody there. The moment you have this on yourself and degree from MOOC, you will be invited. Go in with confidence, tell them your career aspirations, what you want to learn from them, and what they can gain from you, because there is a lot they can learn and the company can gain from you. After that, go in, learn as much as possible. If your path is to get your own company, start it. If your path is to grow into the corporate ladder, do it. If your path is to balance both, learn how to do it. But I would encourage us to get that opportunity to be under somebody. Your businesses will thrive and also your career will thrive. Yeah, that's for me today. Thank you. Any questions or any clarifications? We are open to them currently.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you so much on that elaborate lecture on risk management and the practicalities. You mentioned that the table you had was just showing how you do it manually. And are there any free tools? Because I know you said some of them are probably licensed. Are there any free tools that you think are available that students can access on probably online that they can use or play around with?
Okay, I haven't yet interacted with a free tool 100%, but I've interacted with a demo.
Okay.
Maybe I can share with you links to those demos, and then we can interrogate them. Usually the demo, they can give you a week also to have a feel of the basic features. And I think it will be a good one for them.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. I look forward to getting the slides as well so I can share them. I'll also be able to share the recording as soon as it's ready.
Okay.
To the
Okay.
students, you have a risk assessment coursework that's going to be done for next week. I will be able to send an email and also put it up on Moele. So in your groups, you need to identify a business process within ACMIS that you're going to apply the risk assessment process that Christine has actually showed. So I hope you paid attention, and yeah, I'll share the details in an email, possibly tomorrow, but you have a week for that. Okay, that's all. That's the only announcement. I don't see any questions. So if someone has a question, then mute and ask. This is a good opportunity to speak to someone from industry, so use it. You might not see her again, or you might not get another chance in the near future to speak to someone from industry. So if there are questions you have, please ask. Otherwise, if there are no questions in the next 2 minutes, we'll just close the class. Okay, Jennifer is saying thank you, pretty much. Thank you. Any questions? Christine, do you want to elaborate on inherent risk? Someone is
Okay,
asking.
let me do that let me do that in a few.
Okay.
Inherent risk is that risk, which I can call also the risk rating, before we put any controls on it. For example, you have just opened a bank account. The inherent risk is usually high is because you haven't yet set a PIN, maybe for your ATM. You have also downloaded the mobile app on it, but you haven't yet set a PIN. So that the inherent risk is that risk or that issue that when you think about a certain vulnerability or a certain control process going wrong, which will, the way that going wrong, its impact, the way it will affect your goals and objectives, that's inherent. But the moment you start applying, okay, I have my bank account opened and I have my ATM card, but I have a PIN on it. That means PIN is control number one, and I keep it in my bag. I don't give it away. That's keeping it in the bag is number two. Now, you find that if you have only the PIN, meaning these people who just swiping, they may not be able to do it because they don't have your PIN, and also going to the ATM to withdraw money, they may not. However, you're just only exposed to online transactions, which don't require your PIN. They just require the CSS number and also the card number. When you go ahead and also keep it in your bag and not give it out, you're also controlling that online fraudulent transaction. Inherently, it's like there is no PIN and you've thrown the card out there, but it is accessing your monies at the bank. So the inherent risk in most cases is high for most of the risks before you add the controls in place. Hopefully that identifies it. In most cases, we do not report on the inherent risk because it is the risk before controls. After a risk assessment, we report on the residue risk. Usually in most cases, like, oh, I've missed it. After the control effectiveness, you will have to highlight what is not going right. So if you say minor improvement, then you say what can be done to go into effectiveness. That means what is not going right and the actions that are going to be done. Usually when we are reporting to management, we report what is not going right and what areas to improve. Are the free online certificates valid in case of an opportunity? Yes. When the job is entry level, any online certificate demonstrates your understanding and your effort to understand what's going on in the environment. they are valid, include them on your CV, attach them as papers. They are really valid. And it's a step higher to showcasing to the to that possible employer that, you know what, you're getting somebody who knows where they are going, and they have taken an initiative to look out for information out there, and they know what it takes to get there. So it is valid. What qualifications do I need to become a certified auditor besides certificates? If it is certified auditor for information technology, you just need a certificate. However, if you want to branch into financial auditing, you will have to go and do either SCCA or SCPA. SCCA is an international accountancy course, and then CPA is usually every country has their own. So it's certified public accountant, but it's done here locally. There are quite a number of papers you do so that you are qualified for financial auditing. But for security information auditing and security, usually they look at these ones. And any ISO certification, it's a demonstration that you understand risk management. For both auditors and IT risk people, it's always a beginning step for IT. Thank you.
Oh, what did I do? Okay. Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll end here. It's 7:37. We've done more than 2 hours of online class. So thank you so much. Christine, if someone is interested in getting in touch, how do they get in touch with you? Hey, Christine, can you hear me? Oh, great. Okay. Should I share your email address? Or okay, this. Thank you. Okay, so Christine has shared her phone number. Please don't misuse it. Only contact her for related things. Yeah. Okay, we'll need to close now. Thank you so much. I need to